This is Newstalk.
A 6-year-old boy was left inconsolable, that's according to his parents, on a Ryanair Buzz flight from Budapest to Manchester after a woman refused to give up her window seat to the child. The window seat was properly booked by the woman, but it seems the child had the same seat number. Don't know how all of that happened. Anyway, to tell us a bit more, we're joined by Eoghan Corry, editor of Air and Travel magazine. And now tell us about this narrative where we have two people who feel entitled to the same seat.
Pretty straightforward. They paid the extra to get their allocated seat in Ryanair. Ryanair charge for that. It depends on where in the aircraft you are. Ryan, the son, Ryan Bandel from Stoke-on-Trent, he wanted to sit at the window. It was pretty important for the family that he had the window seat. And when they arrived, they have their row of 3 seats, supposedly empty, but there's somebody sitting by the window seat. Now, the next part of it, all of us will identify with, we have a customer with their window seat. The cabin crew get consulted. What's your seat number? Usually somebody's the row before, the row behind, but this woman actually, the seat number was correct on it, and having got the window seat, she refused to move. So that's what was reported by the Irish Mirror. The Ryanair's response has been that this was a technical glitch, and as you said in the intro, very, very hard to imagine how this happened.
Okay, but it does happen. But both parties, it would appear, had paid for the right to a window seat. I'm a bit intrigued that this young child, I don't know how old he was exactly, probably, what was he, 3 or 4, why they didn't board first. And therefore claim the window seat before the woman. But that's something that'll obviously come out in the wash. So here we have a situation. The parents are looking for compensation for the stress caused.
Compensation for the stress caused. They have been paid, they've been refunded what they paid. And the compensation for the stress could end up in a legal process. You know, most likely in the English equivalent of the small claims court. I would imagine Ryanair have already held their hands up and said this is something that happens. Anybody listening to us that has a tech system will know exactly how much you sometimes things come out at the end of your technology that weren't supposed to happen, and it is very, very rare. Pat, I do an awful lot of flights, as the listeners will know. I think on one occasion in all the years I've been given the same seat with a boarding card that somebody else had the exact same boarding card. It's a very, very rare occurrence. Ryanair put 3,500 aircraft into the air every day, and it is a subsidiary. It was in Budapest that it happened. So I don't think people, I'm sure listeners will come up if it's happened to them, but I don't think it happens very often.
Yeah. The mother, Adi is her name, she said Ryan likes to sit next to the window. It calms him down a bit, and he likes to lean his head against the wall. And she says, my poor child was crying. People gave him sweets and were so kind. I don't know whether he's on social media at his age, but he might be even more distressed to see that his parents had posted pictures of him for all to see.
There's a lot of, on aircraft, air flying is very, very stressful. And there are a lot of children that will, without any visibility about them, will require special comforting. So I'd be reluctant, and I'd say everybody be reluctant to make any call on where they overreacting to the fact he didn't get the window seat. If you've paid for your window seat, you've obviously made the decision that your child needs this. And the real problem here is, there were 2 problems. First of all, somebody had the exact a window seat as well. The flight was fully booked. This is the norm at Ryanair. The figures that came out last week show that 95% of those seats are sold on every flight, and that's an average. So you can imagine how fully booked it was. The cabin crew are then put in a position where they would try to rectify the situation. I know lots of people in my life that if they were on a window seat and they came across a situation like that, would give it up readily. But unfortunately, in all of that aircraft, when you had to have 3 people sitting together and a window seat, it was beyond the power of the cabin crew to rectify. My experience is cabin crew are good at this.
Who retained the seat she was entitled to.
Absolutely.
Which she had paid
Absolutely.
for, is now she's not identified, but she's being pilloried, really.
There was a lot of that. There was a big running story during the summer about somebody, saying, why didn't the person decide give up the seat because I wanted to sit? If you pay for your seat, you are entitled. It's on your terms that you give up the seat.
Yes. And we don't know, by the way, what the attitude was, whether whether tempers got a bit frayed, whether people got a bit overexcited by this conflict in the cabin. So we don't know any of that. Flying
is immensely stressful for some people. And, I've seen lots of situations in aircraft where tempers get frayed, people shout at each other. I think that cabin crew, everyone involved in aviation, has to make allowances for the amount of stress that people are going through, particularly flying with family. And sometimes they don't.
Because they are cocooned there. They will not be disturbed by people going to the loo and so on and so forth. And maybe this woman is thinking, if I move, I'm going to be scourged by the child going to the loo and the husband going to the loo and everybody's stepping over me when all I want to do is put my head down. I'm exhausted, tired. I just want to sleep all the way from Budapest to Manchester. That's what I want to do. And that's what I'm going to do.
Here's the thing, Pat. When a conflict arises, it usually starts at a fairly high level. It can be someone leaning the seat back in front of you. That doesn't happen on Ryanair. It can be somebody asking for a seat. Very often the attitude and how the first question is asked is how it determines the whole argument. And then you reach a stage where one word can drive someone over the edge. And the next thing you have this massive situation. And this is important because I actually think Ireland's cabin crew, and I fly a lot, are some of the best in the world at this. In situations where an American cabin crew or someone with, sort of tired of a long flight can wind up a passenger.
The interpersonal skills.
Absolutely, we are very good at it. Both Aer Lingus and Ryanair Irish crew are terrific at this, and I've seen it. My jaw has dropped occasionally when I've seen a situation that was escalating out of control being brought in. There's nothing like an Aer Lingus cabin crew of a certain age who's seen it all, done it all, coming down and calming down every bit of the situation. It's a joy to behold when we see it. We needed someone like this in this situation.
All right, Eoghan, thank you very much for joining us.
Always a great pleasure, Pat.